All right, it's recording.
What's up, guys? This is Keith Kelfis with the Untrapped podcast. And also, we're on video right now. We have Brandon Vaughn. He's the founder of a service business in Portland, Oregon, who brought he brought his business from nothing, where it was just him and his dad. That fucking dog better not bark, dude. No, my wife left, and she's got to control the dogs while I do this because I'm not in my office. Sorry. Okay, man. I'll just restart. Ready? What's up, guys? This is Keith Kelfis with the Untrapped podcast, and we're doing a special transmission today, also on video. So not only can you catch this on where any podcast is available, but also here on video, on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere. And we have a special guest. We have Brandon Vaughn from Conquer. And Brandon's here. What's up, Brandon?
What's up, Keith? Good to be here, man.
Yeah, so you see his face right there. Brandon is a very special person and to me, because here's a guy who owned a window cleaning, soft washing, pressure washing business, and he brought it from just a little tiny business back in the day and blew it up to $500,000 a month, over 60 employees. And he got to the point where he was implementing all these systems into his business. And I've learned a ton from Brandon. He's been the keynote speaker at tons of industry events, and also has the Conquer program, where he's helping literally change and improve the lives and businesses of many, many small business owners, and as a family unit as well. Like, I went to the Conquer summit that you guys had last year, and it was just phenomenal, the level of training. But today we're going to talk about something that's in the air right now and everywhere, and talk about how this COVID-19 coronavirus is impacting you, how it's impacting your business, and what can we do about it. There's different mindsets and how we respond right now, because between stimulus and what happens, there's a small gap, and that's our ability to respond to anything. How are we going to handle this, and what are some of the best things that we can do? What's up, Brandon?
What's up, man? Yeah, this is definitely unprecedented times, right? I mean, I think it's safe to say that most service business owners have not weathered something like this in their lifetime. It's new, it's different, it presents new challenges, but the response is going to be the same, whether it is, something happened in the economy versus this bug that's going around. The response really ends up being kind of the same thing as far as best practices on how to weather the storm, how to handle it. And I think that at the beginning, there's a lot of people that were saying, is this real? Is it really anything? Is it even going to be? Is it just overhyped media stuff? And I think it's starting to kind of turn a little bit more into people understanding, okay, this is really serious. And I think that the people who have decided to be the buffalo and run towards the problems rather than run away from them, I think they're a little bit more well equipped to deal with it. But I think that's kind of all shifting right now to where people are understanding, okay, we got to have a game plan. So that's why I wanted to get together with you and help arm people with a good game plan and talk about it, and just, be transparent about it.
Yeah. And if there's one person that knows, and I mean, it's you, the conversations that I've had with you and the storms you've had to weather and the things or anxieties that you've been through in your business have really given you perspective. Perspective is a huge thing. I know that I went through 2008, and I mean, it was tough. And it's interesting to see some people that haven't been through that are a little bit younger versus the people that been through 2008. And I'll tell you one thing, we came out of 2008 swinging, but there are some people who didn't come out so well because they got very discouraged and they gave up and they lost all momentum. So what are some things, what's going on in your head right now?
I think there's an interesting thing that's happening right now in service businesses. There's some people that are like, they're looking at something where it's like they're dealing with issues, they're dealing with problems, and they're crushing it still, right? So they're actually going out there, they're pivoting, they're offering different, cleaning and sanitizing services. They're reaching out in PR, they're on news media stations, they're chasing down the problem head on. And I think for those people, their business is actually booming right now. I've talked to some home service business owners where they're booked out for like weeks, months in advance right now. One guy has, $200,000 worth of work that's lined up for like the next month and a half. But then you also have people that are really struggling. And I think it kind of varies in different trades. Some people like the cleaning industry with their trades, you kind of have a unique advantage to be able to take advantage of this and to, pivot a little bit and really be a leader in your community. So I think what's happening to people is that they're letting the fear and anxiety of what could happen paralyze them from taking action right now. And the thing that I always like to talk about is there's 3 different stages. There's like depression, contentment, and anxiety. So, depression is living in the past, something that's happened before in the past. That's where depression really comes from. Anxiety is the opposite. It's living in the future. It's being so freaked out and so stressed out about these things that could happen that you get paralyzed. And the reality is that a lot of those things, your deepest fears, your deepest anxieties, they may never come to fruition. In fact, how many times have we been so anxious and so freaked out because we have nothing on the schedule for tomorrow? And we're like, oh my gosh, there's like, what am I going to do? You just have so much anxiety and your heart's, racing and your pulse is pounding and you're freaking out and all of your employees are all stressed out. And then later on that afternoon, you get a call for a job that like books you out for 2 months. And then you're like, oh, sweet. Everything's good. But that time period where you're so anxious, you're worried about things that may or may not even happen. Whereas that contentment, that happiness is just kind of being in the now, taking things one day at a time and just being present with your team, present with your family, present with life and the fact that we're here and we can breathe in and we can enjoy it. And I think that mindset is such a big critical component as a business leader as to whether your business is going to struggle or whether it's going to thrive.
You said as a business leader, which is so important to be that and then demonstrate that and be the role model to the people on your team,
right,
to people in your family and your friends, that you have a sense of calm about you no matter what. Because if you add to the chaos or the hysteria, then you're just adding to the problem. So that's a good point. And one thing I want to add to what you're saying is, for some of you guys out there that know, I used to be a huge conspiracy guy back in 2008. I was on the internet too much and I went down a rabbit hole.
This is a good point.
I spent a few years thinking the worst possible scenarios that I don't want to say here. And you know what? I'm mad because that stuff didn't even happen. And I spent so much time worrying about it. And I realized, and because I make YouTube videos, anybody can make a really catchy thumbnail and a catchy headline, and they can do things to drive traffic. And it's called, like marketing hell is where they're going to go. There's the joke about that, because if you capitalize off of chaos, but so have
Right.
perspective, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the one thing that you mentioned with regards to being surrounded by it, and kind of being in that world, a big way for just kind of managing stress and making sure that you're not totally freaking out is to take a break from it. Take a break from the social media, take a break from watching the news and checking these things out. Like if you're constantly Googling like coronavirus update right now, you're just going to get sucked into it and you're just going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And as a leader, your team's counting on you, your family's counting on you. You can't just do that. You have to be present for them. One thing that I have personally experienced in my business before was whenever me as the CEO, I walk into my company and people sense that I'm anxious and I'm talking about, I'm stressed out about work. I'm stressed about this vehicle that's down. I'm stressed out about, this next job that might be canceling. It affects everybody in the company. Everyone gets affected by it. And then suddenly like everyone else is, bickering with each other and they're stressed out and they're freaking out. And then, the performance of the entire team goes down. So I actually had to put on like this face of coming into my company and being like, what's up guys? High five. We're going to crush it today. We're going to have an amazing day. You guys are amazing. We absolutely got this. Like you have to have that confidence level. And it's almost kind of like for me, it was like a fake it till you make it. I had to like fake that I was so confident and I had to be that persona until finally it would start manifesting itself in my company. And then once it manifested in my company that things were under control, then it gave me actually the confidence that I was pretending I had. And it makes a big impact on how you deliver that message to your team and your family.
And wouldn't you say, and I want to put you on the spot right here too, because the question is, wouldn't you say that learning how to respond and be responsible for the energy that you bring into an environment around other people is so important, that contributed to all the success that you've created and where you're at today? But also, can you tell the story along with that? Of, you told me this story of how you had you had the word control ripped up on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Can you tell that?
Yeah. So it was, in order to be able to grow a business, you have to put a lot of trust and confidence in other people. You have to be optimistic, especially if you're going to grow fast. If you are always worrying about what could go wrong and how much, could crumble and fall apart, and well, what if that new employee screws me? And what if this person takes advantage of me? You're never going to be able to experience growth in your business, period. You have to let go of control. And I was at this point in time to where, I was really in a bad place with my business. We were experienced really rapid growth and then really almost kind of imploded. Half of my employees quit on me within 30 days. And I was really freaking out. I became very bitter. I became bitter towards other team members, other employees. Became like, oh, I got to do it all myself kind of a person. And it wasn't until I sat down with my business coach, she actually made me write down the word control on a piece of paper. And she like slid it across her desk, and I like picked it up. It's like, okay, got this. She's like, now I want you to tear it into a million tiny pieces, as tiny pieces as you possibly can. And she just stood there quiet at her desk while I did this. And I just tore it into all these pieces. And I actually started crying. I actually got emotional because I was tearing this up, and it was a silly, stupid thing. It was a piece of paper that had the word control on it, but it just symbolized kind of a turning point for me when you realize that you have to depend upon other people. You have to depend upon your team, and you just have to lead with optimism. And I think that's a challenge, especially in the age of social media and keyboard warriors and how everyone wants to give their opinion. And if someone's really struggling, they, in order to feel better about themselves, post all their negativity online and tear everyone else down because it makes themselves feel better. And we're surrounded by that everywhere that we look. So, I mean, as a business leader, what are you going to do? Are you going to buy into it? Are you going to, rise above it and lift people up? Or are you going to, tear down and be a fear monger? And I think that that's kind of a choice that you have and I have, and we all have right now, amidst a crisis like this. And when people look back on it, the leaders are the ones who are going to thrive after it. They just are.
What would you say some of the most key important behaviors and routines to maintain so you don't end up falling into a lull or into a slump right now? And I know things are going to be harder. We have to hustle that much harder and all the skills that we've been gathering these last few years are all going to come into play right now. So
Right.
what are some of those behaviors and things that you foresee are the most important right now?
I think that the most important thing is to be proactive. Don't be reactive at this time. Don't say, "Oh, well, we'll just wait and see if this is going to happen." We have to wait and see until this all shakes out before, you make decisions to keep marketing, to keep reaching out to your customers, to keep putting out there. Because if you are like, I'm just going to wait to market until I kind of see how things shake out, you're going to find yourself in a really bad place. You have to make sure that you're putting the gas pedal down, because right now there are people who may not want to use your services, who are like already on your book of schedule or your existing customers, but there may be a whole new area over here of opportunity that's available to you if you actually are proactive and go out and try to find it. And so I think that the people who tend to be thriving are the ones who have already created a video, educating all their customers about the things that they're going to be doing. They've already created, the content to be able to educate, their local community. They're already reaching out to the news media. They're being proactive. They're not waiting to see how it affects their business. They're just moving forward as if they are going to thrive. And that's what's going to push them through.
You just gave me a massive insight. So I was concerned about that specific thing, and I don't mean to sound cold, but the other companies that are shrinking in this time, they're going to reduce their capacity to take care of clients.
Yes.
So moving forward and being fully proactive and on the hustle,
Yeah. You have to keep putting the gas pedal down. And I think this is, it's a really important thing when service business owners are looking to, if you put the same effort as if you're trying to grow your business and continue to grow your business, you may not actually grow leaps and bounds, but you may stay at the current level to where you're not having to lay off people, have to make, severe moves. But, send out text blast to all your customers, send out email blast, voicemail bomb blast, like keep the pedal down.
So we're starting next week. We're already getting booked out. The phone's ringing. I'm out doing quotes. And normally I don't like to start until the first week of April, full blown. That's packed schedule because we're getting everything, all the ducks in a row. In Michigan, where I'm from, it was literally freezing the other night. Then it's warm. Then it's freezing. Then it's snowing. It won't make up its mind. But it looks like we're starting a couple weeks early here. And so what about guys in different areas of the country that are in different industries? Because a lot of guys here that are listening to this podcast, they cut grass, they trim bushes, they install landscape projects. What do you think about versus these high ticket luxury projects versus all the general maintenance that's going to need to get done anyways?
Well, I mean, again, I think that people are going to, they are going to start panicking. They are going to start looking at how can they cut expenses, and they're going to start looking at things as like unnecessary expenses. And I think the reactive business owner is going to take a look at that, and they're going to say, well, I'm just going to see how many people cancel. I'm going to see how many people, decline services. Whereas, you shouldn't be thinking that way. You should be thinking, how can I get, 10x more customers than I currently have right now? Like how can I market to get even more customers coming into my business, rather than just waiting to see what our nut looks like right now and how much of that's going to kind of go away.
You know what? You just reminded me of Tony Robbins and Personal Power 2 back in the day. I was listening to that while I was out cutting grass. He had this story where he was in a race car getting coached. You know this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell the story.
No, you tell it. You tell it, man. Go ahead.
All right.
I've been
So,
talking too much.
dude, I'm interviewing you. But he said that whatever you focus on. So when he would randomly pull this lever and then would spin the car out of control. And at first, Tony Robbins would look at the wall and try to avoid the wall, and they started going straight towards it. But the race car driver coach conditioned him to look at where he wants to go. Very, very important right now. So we have all these distractions coming at us, like being in a batting cage with all of them turned on, and we have to focus on the target even harder now and really get clear about distractions. So daily routines, committing that you'll only look at the news twice a day instead of refreshing literally every 20 minutes.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Once a week. I mean, dang. I mean, you want to be informed, but too much obsession over it is going to be too much. And then social media can be a really big problem. One thing I just want to encourage anyone here is that the industry as a whole has to raise. Every single one who's a service business owner right now that is in your industry, they're a brother or a sister. Like, you really have to view them as a family, because everyone all over the country in our industries, they're struggling. There's a lot of people that are struggling. Not everyone, but there's a lot of people that are struggling. Let me ask you a question. What's going to fan the flames and what's going to douse the flames? Going online and posting, well, I just lost another $5,000 job. Well, I just lost another $400 job. Thanks a lot, COVID-19. Well, I just found out that one of my employees quit. Just found out this, just found out that. Like, we have a choice. We can post online and social media all the negative impacts that how this is affecting our business. What does it accomplish other than just like making us feel better that we've been able to complain to someone else and add more negativity? What it can do is it can cause a lot of other of our fellow service business owners of these companies to be even more stressed out, even more panicked. Even if they're not currently experiencing that, they're saying, well, inevitably this is going to happen to me. Inevitably, I'm going to suffer this exact same fate, and start freaking out. Whereas we have a choice to comment our wins, what we're finding out is working, talking about things specifically. So, what we put in words and what we put back out there into the world as far as positive versus negative will not just impact ourselves, but it'll impact everybody. And so, one of the things that I was watching, have you seen this video in Italy where they're like singing out on all their balconies?
Bro, bro, I just watched that this morning and
Wasn't
it
that like
was emotional,
beautiful?
dude. That was beautiful, bro. And it was so inspiring.
I mean, like, you have these people that are going through one of their biggest national crises ever, and everyone's all like locked up in their house. If you haven't seen a video, you have to go watch it. It's really heartwarming. It was moving to watch this, but they have all these people that are standing out on their balconies, and they got their accordions and their drums, and they're just singing, and they're just like, everyone is trying to be together rather than in their isolation, freaked out, stressed out, anxious. Like, you have a choice. You can get out of the balconies and you can sing and you can encourage and you can lift somebody up, or you can be in isolation and you can post in social media in your dirty little corner and just talk about all the negative things that's going on right now and how it's impacting you in a negative way. Now, this doesn't mean you shouldn't have an outlet to be able to handle and talk to someone and have a support community on dealing with negative things. You don't have to it's not all just sunshine and rainbows, right? We still have the reality of the situation. But how you publicly project your energy into the world, and in your comments, is going to make a massive impact to our industry and to the community. And how awesome would it be if we could do that same thing like they're doing in Italy right now in our own industry with each other, and reaching out and helping each other, and, providing each other with strategies and tactics and wins, rather than just turning social media and just complain fest of all the terrible things that are going on. I mean, it's such a different way to look at it, but it's a choice.
That's true leadership.
Yeah.
Yes. The encouragement it's a very high vibration, and versus fear and discouragement. And so I'm thinking about that even now more so, instead of just in the household, encouraging others, encouraging people and your friends and family on social media. We're going to get through this. Everything's going to be okay. Like a
Yes.
coach. And you coach dozens of business owners at all different levels. What is some of the experiences that you have and you're going to have, because you're coaching right now? I mean, the Conquer program, are you getting the concerns expressed, and how do you communicate with them? What are some of the results that you're seeing?
100%. Yes. We've, this is not immune to everybody. Everyone is experiencing, fear and anxiety, especially if they're on social media a lot and interacting with, the negative posts and things. But the biggest thing that we're coaching people is we're arming them with tools and practical steps. And the thing that makes me most proud about our community of Conquer members, which we have about 200 plus Conquer members right now in our program, is that everyone is collaborating and sharing what posts they're doing that's getting really excellent, response in their community. Their interviews that they're doing with the news media. I think we have 14 or 15 of our Conquer members that have been actually interviewed by TV news stations and have TV broadcasts of their members on there. And it all started because people are sharing and collaborating wins with each other. They're sharing, what social media posts they're doing that are garnering a whole bunch of new business. They're sharing, how they're impacting or how they're communicating with their customers. One of our Conquer members created this insanely awesome video about all the steps that he's doing to make sure that the customer as a homeowner is safe when they come on site and are, performing services there. And he shared the B-roll with all of our Conquer members so that they could all produce their own videos. So there's ways that you can share and collaborate and team up to be able to make, the power of the group collaboration, rather than just having to be by yourself and trying to figure out this all on your own. Like, get part of a community. If it's not Conquer, get part of, a Facebook group and find a positive one. If there's a lot of negativity, block those people, just cut them out and focus on the positive parts.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Can you talk about an experience you went through in your business before you just sold it last year
Mm-hmm.
to move on to this and build this whole community? But I mean, with how many, I remember you posted this picture on, I think it was Facebook, and it was your team. They flew a drone up, and it was just looked like a small army that you had built, and your ability, how you empowered so many people to take the reins. But what is something really hard that you went through in your business that you had to control your mindset and get through, and you did get through?
I think probably one of the toughest things was when I had a former disgruntled employee um, who ended up being just a total cancer to our company. Um, Literally, like, in fact, probably a half dozen other employees to almost a full blown revolt inside of my business. And this was someone who I spent a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort building that person up, helping him. I even gave him personal loans, and gave him access to personal or to work equipment to be able to do. I think just like really took care of him. In reality, I actually just ended up spoiling him. It ended up getting into a really bad situation with him and several other people on our team to where we just had to cut the cancer out. And I remember at one point in time, it ended up getting so bad to where, I kind of wanted to just give up. I mean, really, it felt impossible, like an impossible situation to try to, get back a hold of. But sometimes, a healthy body, everyone realizes that it's a healthy body when you fight off the cancer and you fight the germs and you fight you cut out the sickness. Everyone else realizes that that's actually a sign of the body being very healthy. So when I made that really tough decision to literally fire a half dozen plus employees and kind of cut out this big chunk of cancer that we had in our business, instantaneously the morale lifted up in our company. We had people coming to me sharing all these, stories and horror stories of things that were going on behind the scenes after they were gone. And it actually was an immediate 180-degree switch inside of our business of terrible, cancerous environment to positive, thriving, like most profitable months ever as soon as we made that big switch. And, really it just kind of comes down to, are you prepared to make the necessary hard decisions? Because it was tough. I mean, when we fired that many people all at once, I had to jump back into the field full time. My wife had to jump back into the field. She helped me, was like pressure washing some of our jobs. She had to jump back in and work full time again. I mean, it was hard. It was a hard move, but it made all the difference in the world, and it instantaneously made our company more healthy.
I bet you there's a
I don't think
saying.
I've ever shared that story with anyone on any podcast before, by the way.
Yeah, and there's more where that came from. Maybe we'll save this for later. I'll ask you off script. You told some, but Brandon has some stories that would be some of our nightmares, and you've lived them out, and that's the reason why you're successful, because you kept charging forward instead of crawling in a hole. And I think it was the book Traction, was it? Basically, after you do cut the cancer out and you get rid of some of those employees, the other employees, so after the cancer is cut, the other employees will start coming out and revealing things that were happening all along that you weren't even aware of and how they felt. And you'd be like, how come you didn't tell me this beforehand?
Right. Right. Yeah. There's an awesome quote that I love from Walt Disney. And if you don't know much about Walt Disney's story, dude, he went through some stuff. Like his first business that he ever started up, he went bankrupt within like 2 months. And then went bankrupted his company, I think 3 or 4 times before he actually found a decent amount of success. Had a company, steal his intellectual property and poach like all of his employees. I mean, you want to read a pretty inspiring story. But one of the things that it was his favorite quotes that I love that he says, he says, all my obstacles have strengthened me. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you. And it's true. I mean, iron is actually strengthened when you beat the crap out of it with a hammer and heat it up and plunge it into cold water and like basically torture it. You strengthen iron and you tension it and you create it even more hardened and more resilient and sharper. I mean, like you can sharpen it by, this really brutal process of extreme heat to extreme cold and plunging it back and forth. It creates this ultimate sharp weapon. And you have kind of a choice. You can just, when you get that heat, you can just melt and you could just fade away into nothingness and just give up. Or you could use it to your advantage and use it to sharpen yourself and harden yourself to be better, be a weapon.
And that comes down to a choice, whether it's one single choice or a choice that is literally moment by moment, a minute by minute choice, to look at the wall when everything's out of control and crash into the wall, or be diligent and hustle. And I really think about this a lot. When times are really, really good, do you do the things necessary because times are good that are going to benefit you when times are down? Or are we lazy when times are good? If somebody asks us for a favor, or it's this kind of a spiritual thing. It's like a yin yang. It's like when people feel that fear of God on them, like you feel this feeling, it's a specific calling. It's like, and I don't know if this is like religious brainwashing in my head, but I really believe it is God that I feel, because I've had some religious brainwashing too, just to be clear. But I feel this feeling like, who are you in these times will that's what's going to happen in these times. So who are you? Are you a completely rounded, holistic person who doesn't forget where you came from? And like you said, the iron sharpening iron, do you make the choice to literally put on your battle gear and get out there and hustle and fight the good fight?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, I think that if there's one thing that I've learned in business over these past few years is we've had some really really hard times, where I've been crying on the couch, full blown panic attack, crying in my laundry room on the floor with my wife, hugging my wife because we didn't know what was going to happen next. We've had a lot of moments like that. And, one of our mutual close friend, Josh Latimer, says, everyone sees the wine, no one sees the crushing of the grapes. Like sometimes I think that, people feel like if everything is going, if they're scared and they are freaked out, that's a sign that something's wrong in their business. When in reality, to get somewhere you've never been means doing things you've never done before. So the very act of growth and getting to a better place means to be uncomfortable and means to be a little bit fearful. Comfort breeds complacency. So the more comfortable we are in our business, when everything's smooth and going along, like the more complacent we get with things, so that when the hard times come, we don't even know how to function. So, I think it's good to always make sure that you're a little bit uncomfortable in your business. It kind of smooths out those highs and those lows. I mean, when I sold a big, $30,000 job, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, get the champagne bottle, let's pop it open, this is amazing. And then when the job cancels, I wouldn't go into like a spiraling depression. I would kind of iron out some of those really, really high moments. And then I'd also smooth out the really, really low moments, because I knew that, in 3 to 6 months, I mean, it's going to be kind of back to business as usual. Will we be able to survive this? We'll be able to do what's, required to, iron out and smooth out this dip. It's all in how we approach it and how willing we are to run head first at the problem rather than just wait for it to happen to us.
Awesome. One thing with people in being anxious is back to the basics. What are all the basics? Can you lay out 5, 6 things right now that service business owners need to be doing right now and need to be doing every day in order to keep the ball moving forward and keep progressing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in fact, one of the cool things that our Conquer coaches did is last week they probably volunteered a good 20 hours collectively of their time minimum, putting together this incredible field guide to, basically survive COVID-19 in your service business. And it's just this massive 20-page long document with FAQs and everything. And in fact, if you want, I can give you links to share with your listeners so that they could download and check it out. It's a completely free resource just for the industry. We just want people to be able to, thrive throughout all of this. But it really kind of comes down to,
Yeah, I want that. I want that too. So I'll put the link below. Give it to me after this and I'll put it below.
okay.
And for those of you listening to the podcast, if you can't find it in the show notes, it'll be on my YouTube channel.
So, the first thing is really identifying really clearly your market positioning. Is there anything that you can do to provide services or to provide support to customers who need it? The whole reason why we exist as entrepreneurs is because we're serving our customers. That's it. It's the whole reason why. There's no other purpose for our existence than serving people. That's why we're in the service business. We're servants. So the first thing we have to do is, how can we serve our customers? What are they freaked out about? What are current issues and problems that they're having currently, and how can we serve them? How can we allay their fears of having someone onto their property? How can we, like, you have to put yourself inside the mind of your customer to be able to figure out how best to serve them in the best way, rather than being like so obsessed over, oh, me. Really, the act of serving others is what's going to get you what you want. Zig Ziglar said, you could have everything you want in life if you help enough other people with what they want in life. So that's a really big thing. How can you market yourself and position yourself to still provide service to your customers? And there's a lot of service businesses that are doing this very, very well. And it means pivoting and doing some things that they are not 100% comfortable doing because they're not an expert in this field, or they don't know if it's going to work, but they're just trying to figure that out. Call some of your customers, ask them if is there anything that we can do? You know, I know that exterior services may not be an absolute thing that you might need right now, but is there something else that we can do to provide, you know, some kind of service to you? So it kind of starts with that. The second thing you can do is, every single day, you have to recharge yourself. You have to make sure that you're filling your own tank personally, spending time with your family, being in gratitude, just being appreciative of what you have. Because it can be really easy as service business owners to just obsess about our business and think about how it's being impacted it. But, you know, let's not forget, for those of us who have kids and have family members and a spouse and a community of people that are looking to us, we have to make sure that we're also serving them. And, you know, sometimes that means stepping up as a leader. They say heavy wears the crown, right? Heavy is the crown. And it's true. Being a leader requires kind of carrying some of that burden, and it's hard. So the third thing I recommend doing is get a support group. Get people who you can, you know, count on and trust, rather than venting your public things out to the general public. Like, find a couple people that you can just kind of team up and just really help each other work through some of those tough times. So you have to have some kind of a conduit, some kind of a lifeline for that part of it. And then also, you know, make sure that you're taking preventative steps to preserve your own health.